everybody, happy Halloween. I don't know if you're into Halloween. Pete, are you into Halloween?
Not really.
Peter Clayton behind the camera. I'm Jeremy Cordeaux. 31st of October. I don't know that Halloween has caught on to a great deal, any great extent in Australia. I drive past a few houses and some people go to a great deal of trouble to dress their houses up in cobwebs, and must be a terrible task to clean it up afterwards. But I sort of worry about Halloween in the sense that I suppose there was a time when one might let the kids go trick-or-treating, if that's the correct description. But I don't think I would let my kids go to a house that was dressed up in ghoulish stuff, knock on the door. I have no idea who lives in there. I mean, and do perhaps elderly people want people knocking on the door, tricking and treating? I don't know.
You put a sign out if you're accepting children to come around.
We'll have to get another microphone, Pete, for Caroline. We'll have to what?
People put things out on their front fence or gate to say they welcome children, and some people just leave a bucket of treats outside.
Yes.
Now everything is packaged. You're not supposed
Well,
to...
my mother taught me not to take sweets from strangers.
Did you go to Guy Fawkes night?
Oh, bonfire night was completely different.
No, that's far more vicious.
No, the whole family was gathered around and we built a great big bonfire. It took about 2 months to get everything together, including, rubber tyres.
Someone. And then
we broke every rule in the world.
Yes, thank you.
And we didn't heat the planet.
Halloween is like Chinese New Year.
Okay, so you're a fan of Halloween.
It's all Hallows Eve.
Okay, you'll have to come in on Friday and repeat this in case people haven't been able to hear what you're saying. All right,
it's all Hallows Eve, and it's originally Celtic.
Yes, all right,
American.
Okay. All right, Caroline, I'll read this. Halloween originated in pre-Christian Celtic. You say Celtic? You say Celtic? I say Celtic. Religion. And can be traced back to ceremonies held on October 31 at the end of the Celtic year by Druid priests who worshipped a sun god and the Lord of the Dead. The Celts, or the Celts, thanked the sun god for the season's harvest and paid homage to the Lord of the Dead out of fear.
All Hallows Eve.
Well, it sounds rather black to me. Kind of...
And what are you wearing?
A black t-shirt. It's all right. Don't worry. Don't worry. Don't worry. Oh, God, I remember bonfire night. Gee, all of that was a lot of fun. We had cracker night. And, we can't buy Tom Thumbs. You couldn't go and buy a bunger today. They wouldn't let you anywhere near a bunger.
And you got them in the newsagent.
And you got them in the newsagent?
At the age of 5.
And they were wonderful fun, and they were part of growing up. And I really don't understand why we deprive the children of today, because I'm not aware of any great mishaps that occurred. There was an occasional problem, but when you had bonfires all over the entire state to celebrate what was Empire Night to begin with, and then it became Bonfire Night. Anyway, you live with it all, I suppose. Anyway, I got to get on with the show, Caroline. I got to get on with the show. A new report from the OECD is interesting. These people are paid an awful lot of money. These are the global economic brains of the world, the OECD. They have given us a bit of a lecture here in Australia. They've said that we have to raise taxes and introduce new taxes. Tax reform, they scream. Tax reform. I wonder why tax reform always means tax increases. Why is that? What about cutting government spending? And what about cutting government waste, largesse, extravagance? You never hear a word about that. And funnily enough, when Labor is in opposition, you never hear anything. When the Liberals are in opposition, never hear anything. I think they have the same sort of interest in largesse. Neither one seems to be particularly keen on stopping it. I do. I suspect you do too. Oh, by the way, they're out to kill the Brumbies again. I don't know if you've heard this. You heard this, Pete?
Yes, unfortunately, yes.
Yep, they do this regularly. They're saying that, we haven't had a major cull for 25 years.
Well, shooting from helicopters.
Shooting from helicopters. Yeah. But listen to this, Pete, listen to this. The interview with the so-called environmentalist, I mean, this is the guy who is sailing under the banner of being an environmentalist. I would put him in a completely different category. Anyway, the interview with this environmentalist was most interesting. And it went something like this. How many horses are you talking about up there in the high country, the snowy mountains of New South Wales? Well, we think there are about 20,000 horses up there. It's hard to be accurate because it's very difficult when you're counting them from a helicopter. Very inaccurate. But here's the guy saying that thousands of these beautiful creatures will be shot from helicopters. Too inaccurate for counting the horses, but not for shooting them. That's just plain disgraceful. And there is not one scintilla of evidence brought forward that says these horses do any harm to the environment whatsoever. I will never understand how the popular media does not come down on these people like a ton of bricks. Glad I got my voice back, Pete.
So am I.
The now proven to be totally out of touch ACT, the Australian Capital Territory, Canberra, will have from Saturday the decriminalisation of cannabis, DMA, cocaine, ice, heroin, you name it. All perfectly okay. Drugs are a massive problem. I knew Canberra was out of touch, but could they be so far out of touch? You can't just make a lesser problem of drug taking by calling it okay. That is not going to change a thing. The problem will be bigger with every day that passes. Now, these people in Canberra, the ACT, they like to think of themselves as progressives. Progressives. What is progressive about stupidity? But we do know, after the referendum, just how incredibly out of touch the national capital really is. And at the end of this experiment, this social experiment, there will be a lot of human suffering and cost. There will be no apology. They will not say sorry. They won't back down. No. They'll just soldier on with their socialist rubbish. People often ask me, I don't know about you, Pete, but people say to me, what's this thing you bring up from time to time about woke? What is woke? You know?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it stands for. I don't know
woke. I think it's got its roots deep in America. I think it's probably in black America, I'm not sure. But I got the perfect demonstration here for woke. You know, political correctness, you know, welcome to country and all that stuff. But this is much better. This is the perfect demonstration. And it's always a Labor government. I don't know why. I've got no idea why. This one's out of Queensland. They've come up with, the state government in Queensland, bereavement leave for people in mourning over the demise of the yes vote. Yep. What do you think, Pete?
It's insane. It's insane.
They're in mourning. People will be allowed a week off to recover from their sense of grief and loss because the no vote got up. That is woke.
Well, how do the employers feel about this when business is so hard at the moment?
Well,
this is just nonsense.
In fairness, this is the state government employees.
Oh, okay.
State government public servants.
Okay. Well, the taxpayer pays for it then.
Taxpayers pay for it. Rumours whizzing around that Linda Burney, the Aboriginal Affairs Minister, is on the top of the list to become the next Governor-General. Now, I suggested during the referendum campaign that there was no way that she could stay as the Minister for Indigenous Affairs. I just regarded her as being incompetent and anyway, not able. So the suggestion is that she will be kicked upstairs to be the next Governor-General. Only a rumour. But really, if she did take the job, you'd have to wonder, why do these Republicans want to be the King's representative? And they pop up all over the country from time to time. State governors, governors-general. Why do they want to be the King's representative when they are Republicans? I can well remember back in 1961, we brought it up briefly at the dining room table on Friday. I think John Bruni and I were talking about it. Oh, no, it was James Bruce. In 1976, I had just come to South Australia to start work at 5DN when Doug Nicholls, Sir Doug Nicholls, a former footballer, I think, the first Aboriginal to be appointed to a vice-regal position as state governor, for those who might remember. Pastor Sir Doug Nicholls, he was a pastor. I'm not sure what the church was he was a pastor of. So way back, I mean, you can Google it if you want to. But it was Don Dunstan who put him forward, a man who did not hide his disdain, or I won't say hatred, disdain is a better word, for royalty. A Republican. Anyway, it was a total disaster, and I won't go into the details, but it was a cruel and terrible thing to do to this man, who a few months later, after his appointment to being state governor, had a near fatal stroke. And he lived out his days in a nursing home in Victoria, very sadly. And I remember in one interview he lamented the fact that Dunstan had never, ever spoken to him since his stroke. That really affected him a great deal. And I guess it brings me, in a way, talking about inappropriate appointments to vice-regal office, the death of Bill Hayden at the ripe old age of 90, whom I am told cried when talking about his time with Gough Whitlam. Ripe old age, he was 90 years old, good old Bill. We are reminded of the origins of the great socialist revolution of the 70s, the Whitlam government. Bill, who was the guy who introduced Medibank, free medical treatment for all. Free. There would be a small levy, and the benefits and rebates would not be means tested. A pauper or a billionaire. All free. All rubbish, of course. It crashed along with Whitlam. Do we learn? No. Along comes Hawke. Medibank becomes Medicare. Another pig wearing lipstick. Before socialised medicine, doctors were affordable and accessible to all. And I know because I would have been, with my family, among the poorest in the nation. No, they didn't drive Mercedes-Benz cars. Doctors were not particularly well off, but respected. Now, of course, if no one is paying, which is the great socialist mantra, no one is paying, the cost goes through the roof. Just like childcare. Then the government realises that it's not sustainable, like NDIS, and we end up with a levy, and then a bigger levy, and then a co-payment. And then, of course, let me tell you the latest, from November, our out-of-pocket cost for a, if you'll excuse me, free medical care will be between $60 and $100 for a visit to the GP. That's, of course, along with the Medicare levy. Third increase this year, by the way. Doctors' fees, third increase this year. Now, this might interest you. While we are coughing up $60 to $100 and the Medicare levy, the Medibank rebate will be 20 cents. Don't you love it? Don't you love it? 20 cents. And these people are getting away with it. Nothing from the media. Nothing. 20 cents rebate, the Medibank or Medicare rebate. Making for many a trip to the GP unaffordable in many ways. And no apology from the socialists. Labor keep getting re-elected, and we never learn. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Oh yes, and we can learn other things too, like nothing is free. And the other lesson, which is perhaps the most important, is if government gets involved, the costs go through the roof. Think NDIS, think childcare, think aged care, indeed think health care. It's like the knock on the door and the bloke says, I'm from the government and I'm here to help you. Don't listen, is my fervent advice. Happy birthday if you're having a birthday or a wedding anniversary. I am getting some glasses, I promise you. John Candy was born in 1950. Elvis Presley recorded Crying in the Chapel in 1965. Crying in the Chapel. I don't know, Pete, I don't think that was one of my favourite songs.
Not one of mine either, no.
No. Hunker, hunker, burnin' love. All of that kind of thing. What else can I tell you? Jane Pauley was born in Indiana, co-host of the NBC Today program. 1950 she was born, don't know where she is these days. Harry Houdini died. National Magic Day in the United States, by the way, today. But he died in 1926, killed by a punch delivered in fun by an enthusiastic fan. Broke his appendix or ruptured his appendix or something terrible that happened. But back in the day, of course, when you didn't have penicillin, not much anybody could do. Great Australian. His name was Sir George Hubert Wilkins. He was born in 1888 on this day. Great friend of Nancy Bird Walton, whose home I owned in Sydney for a while. She was the famous aviatrix, and they knew each other through their love of flying. He was the first man to fly an aeroplane in Antarctica, but a great Australian pioneer, explorer, born this day in 1888. There are a lot of attempts by various good-hearted, well-meaning and enthusiastic local people to give him a lot more prominence, particularly here in South Australia. That's good to hear. Chiang Kai-shek was born in China, Chinese nationalist president. In 1886 was born, died November 5 in 1975. Chiang Kai-shek, of course, who was fighting Mao Zedong, who was the communist in China, and his nationalist forces were driven out of China by the communists to a little island off the coast called Formosa, which of course is now Taiwan. And the rest is history, depending on who you listen to. Generally regarded as the day that Beatlemania started in 1963, thousands of screaming teenagers met the Beatles at London Airport after their return from Sweden on this day in 63. Halloween, I mentioned to you. Mrs. Indira Gandhi, Prime Minister of India, was assassinated by her Sikh security guards in 1984. That's still going on, isn't it? Marble Bar, I like this one. You know, all the stuff, I could call it crap, but all the stuff that goes on about climate change and all the rest, global warming and all the rest of it. This was the day back in 1924. 1924. Long time ago, very small population in Australia. I don't know what the industrial revolution had created by way of greenhouse gases by that time. I wouldn't say very much. But anyway, 1924, Marble Bar had the first day of 100 consecutive days when the temperature was over 100 degrees. Marble Bar. Marble Bar and White Cliffs would be perhaps the hottest places in Australia, and among, apart from Death Valley, the hottest places in the world. Have been for centuries. And the temperature doesn't really go up or down very much. Anyway, Tony Pilkington. Happy birthday, Tony, born 1944. The US detonated its first hydrogen bomb in the Marshall Islands in the Pacific Ocean in 1952. They never want to do it in their backyard, do they? Pat Cash won his first major tennis tournament in 1982. Dick Francis, who wrote those thrillers about the racing industry. Dick Francis was born on this day in 1920. Yeah, I'll leave it there, I think. Oh, Michael Landon was born in Forest Hills, New York, 1936. Died rather young, Michael Landon, in Bonanza. Good actor, 1936, yeah. Anyway, thank you very much for viewing the Court of Public Opinion, ladies and gentlemen. Peter Clayton and I will be back tomorrow. And don't forget on Friday, live streaming from the dining room table. I've got a couple of things I want to fit in Pete, if it's all right, tomorrow?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, a couple of things that Marcus sent me. He's a wonderful source of interesting material. We'll do that over the next couple of days on Wednesday and Thursday. Thank you so much for viewing the Court of Public Opinion. Believe in yourself, and goodbye for now.